Our next guest thought she had a wart on her foot, but it ended up being something much more, and it nearly took her life. Rachel, a 40-year-old mom of 3, says she felt like a piece of glass was stuck in her foot and brushed it off thinking it was a plantar wart. She started self-medicating with wart removal creams, but more growths appeared on her foot and she started to worry. After seeing a dermatologist, she learned she had melanoma, which had spread to other areas of her body. She had several surgeries to remove the melanoma from her foot and reconstructive surgeries to replace part of her heel. Doctors also removed melanoma from lymph nodes in her groin and tumors in her stomach lining. Now Rachel wants to share her traumatic experience to help raise awareness and save lives. Friend of the show, oncologist Dr. Lawrence Pirro is here, along with Rachel, who joins us now via Skype. Rachel, so very sorry that you've been through all of this, and I know how scary it must have been and probably still is, but how are you doing now?
I'm doing really well, thank you. I've just had my latest scan, which was really reassuring. Showed no further spread at this stage, which is amazing. But unfortunately, as we know with melanoma, there's still the chance that there's cells still present.
Melanomas can look like almost anything. We tend to think of them as black spots that are growing, but they can have a cover over them from the outer layer of the skin and look like a wart, like was in your case. They occur in areas where the sun doesn't shine. Most of us think that they're only in sun-exposed areas, but this is a good example. And I think the really important points are that anything that's persistent on your skin and doesn't look like it belongs there, you should see a dermatologist.
Skin cancer, by far the most common of all cancers, as you often tell us. We all know the importance of protecting your skin from the sun. But when it comes to protecting your children, what's so different about baby versus adult sunscreens? Have a look. With 1 in 5 Americans developing skin cancer in their lifetime, protection from harmful UV rays is so important. And when it comes to protecting children from the sun, many opt for gentler versions of sunscreen labeled specifically for kids or babies. But what makes baby sunscreen gentler? According to a new study done by the Clean Label Project, nothing. The organization examined 95 of the best-selling sunscreens and sunblocks and found no significant difference between baby, kid, and adult versions of sunscreen. But when it comes to toxins, they did find something unsettling in many bottles of block: lead. 5 of the tested brands had enough lead in a dime-sized amount to exceed California's mandated safety levels. So what's the best way to protect yourself from the sun? And is baby sunscreen just clever marketing? Joins us now to shed some light on the study is Executive Director of the Clean Label Project, Jackie Bowen.
Welcome, Jackie.
Welcome. Jackie, we all want to do what's best for babies. What did you find? Is there a difference out there between the safety of the baby sunscreens versus adult ones?
So the short answer is no, there's no difference. Clean Label Project tested the top 95 products, tested them for things like heavy metals efficacy, antioxidant activity, sulfites, and what we found is no difference between baby and adult sunscreens.
So you're a consumer. We need to protect ourselves from skin cancer. What do we do now?
So the point of this discussion is not to scare people off sunscreen. So sunscreen is really necessary, as you said, because even if you wear a hat and sun protective clothing and you avoid peak hours of UV exposure between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., you're still going to get some sun, and hopefully you're out there enjoying your life.
So Jackie, how do you recommend people determine if the product they're considering is safe?
Well, let's say a few things. Our findings did show that, consistent with the American Academy of Dermatology, SPF greater than 30 SPF, broad spectrum, and waterproof is always important. Of course, work with your family practitioner or dermatologist to determine what's the best fit. And overall, you can check out our website at cleanlabelproject.org as well.
It's time to... This question came to us via video through social media.
Hey doctors, quick question. I'm active and I love to be outside, but I feel like because I'm a ginger, I get burnt really easily. Do I get sunburnt just because I have red hair? And if that's the case, does that mean that I'm at a greater chance for developing skin cancer?
People with red hair are special, right, Drew?
She is a lovely young redhead. I love it.
And less than 2% of the world's population, unique.
Less than 2%. And what's unique about them, their melanin is different than the rest of us. We have eumelanin. They have pheomelanin, which is a different type of melanin, which makes them more susceptible to UV rays. What's causing it? A gene mutation. There's a specific gene, MC1R. In redheads, they have a pair of those. So it changes their genetic makeup when it comes to melanin. So clearly, more prone to sunburns. That being said, more prone to skin cancers. And we know our skin cancers, most common type, basal cell carcinoma, second, squamous cell carcinoma, and finally, melanoma, the most lethal form of skin cancers. Unfortunately, redheads do have a higher chance of developing these skin cancers. That's why they have to be particularly vigilant.
What can you add to your diet to decrease your risk of skin cancer by up to 15%? Foods with Dr. Batra.
Vitamin A.
Woo! Let's give it up for vitamin A.
Yes, so this is actually a really interesting study that was just published in JAMA Dermatology. They looked at over 125,000 people and looked at their long-term risk of developing the second most common type of skin cancer, which is called a squamous cell carcinoma. And they found that those with the highest dietary intake of vitamin A had a 15% lower risk of SCC. And so this is really interesting because vitamin A is known to help promote skin cell differentiation, turnover, growth. It's something that we give as a synthetic form to people at very high risk of skin cancer. But the problem with vitamin A medications is they have a lot of side effects, like dry lips, dry eyes, hair loss, sun sensitivity. And so in this case, none of these people with the higher dietary vitamin A had these side effects, but they did have the protective effect. So super easy: carrots, kale, sweet potatoes, eggs. I mean, all of these are things that you should be incorporating in your diet anyway. And if it decreases your risk of the most common type of cancer in the United States, I really feel like it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. And you do not need to study to get this A.
Unless you're nerdy
Eat those veggies.
But I will say one thing as a side note, because I was mentioning those synthetic forms, too much vitamin A can be dangerous. Remember, for men, the recommended daily amount is 3,000 IU. For women, it's 2,200 IU. So these shouldn't get you over that by any stretch, but do take it from the diet, not from supplements.
And I love how the food you put in your body can protect you from the outside of your body.